But in everything that I've ever done, whether it was going on my own, like 5 times to Finland in 2019, just to immerse myself, it's always been with the, let's say, key performance indicator or success factor of like, if I go back there, is somebody going to pick me up at the airport, right? Or do I know the first and last name of the guy who owns a local restaurant? And every time he sees me, is he like, "What's up, Mo?" Like that was what I was trying to accomplish, like truly getting to know people and not being there as a visitor. And that's what has kind of landed me into now this mixed path of like business and doing the same thing in Cyprus. And I'm sure that'll expand to other places as well.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am your host, as always, Yona Weiss, and it gives me great pleasure to have Maurice Philogene with us today, all the way from the beautiful Mediterranean. What's going on, Mo?
What's going on, man? Very happy to finally catch up with you. We've been trying to connect for a while. It was very, very cool finally.
It has been a while, and we actually had two so far, as of now, two of your partners with Quattro Capital, Aaron Hudson and Chad. Both of them we have had on the podcast previously. So if any listeners want to have a little more context, you've probably heard them before. So now you know. Here's another piece to that puzzle. You guys. Maurice, just to give a little background context to our listeners, you are a real estate investor for many, many years, have a lot of experience in many different areas, but have been an incredible, I say incredible, but you're a public servant really is what you do. I mean, you've been a police officer for 25 years or so. Is that correct?
In law enforcement for 25 years.
Law enforcement. So I'd love to get into that a little bit, but you're doing so many different things. It's hard to really give a true background, but maybe give us a little background on your story. What's led you to where you've gotten to right now with Quattro Capital?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess the first place I tend to start with this stuff is that I love real estate. It has changed my life. It is not my life though. It is a very small portion, but I use it to power all the things that I want to do. I think that's important because a lot of syndicators, investors, businessmen, businessmen and women, whatever you want to call it, they get pigeonholed into that person is a syndicator. I syndicate, but I'm not a syndicator. I live my life a very different way. But to your point, born in New York, raised in Boston, live in DC, or at least I was based in DC. I am now an international real estate developer doing some work in Cyprus. What you were alluding to was with my amazing partners, Chad, Kim, Tammy, and Aaron. We started Quattro Capital late 2019 with our first deal closing in January 2020, which I think we did some work with you on that deal, the Castle Terrace deal. And we've just been on this streak ever since closing. We closed our 13th apartment complex last Friday in 18 months. And our next one is coming up here in about 45 days, which is amazing. But so that's the multifamily side. And then I started with single family in my career dating back to 2002. It had to do with me wanting freedom, which I hope we can talk about a little bit. It was never about money. It was about the ability to control my time. And then lastly, what you alluded to was my entire professional life has been baselined by the fact that I was hired by a company called Accenture when I was 21. They were Anderson Consulting at the time. But I've always had Accenture and I've always had the military. I retired as a federal agent out of the U.S. Air Force in late 2019. So that 22-year stint is done. But I'm still a senior executive at a consulting firm. And then I joined the police department in 2008 as a way to give back to the local community. So a lot of stuff going on, but real estate is certainly a part of it.
Yeah. And I love how you put it, that it's really more than anything. And I relate to that a lot as well. It's what enables you and kind of powers to be able to do what you love and do the things in life that you feel are important. And I think, like you said, people get lost with the forest from the trees because they see real estate and that's it. But really what it's all about is about living your life and to your true self and what you do, what you love. And to be able to invest in real estate is what a lot of people do in order to power that.
Yeah. And that's how it all materialized. I love coming on shows like this. By the way, thank you for having your platform, for helping people. All this stuff is about helping people, believe it or not. It is such a great tool. And fortunately, I was self-taught very young, figured out the whole passive income thing, started buying single family properties. But what I did that was a little bit different than most was that I figured out that I could pay these properties off over time. And I systematically, over a 14-year period, paid off my entire single family portfolio. That was very, very slow. I don't necessarily recommend that for a lot of people, but it worked for me. And I just stayed on the path. And then ended up yielding, like 6 figures of passive by the time I was 34. So I had figured something out. But to your point, life is not about money or real estate. I realized that I was not being challenged because I was pressing repeat on the same methodology. I flipped over to multifamily as the next challenge, and that's kind of what's brought me to this space. It wasn't money. It wasn't because I needed to do the next thing. It was because I was looking for the next challenge. That has certainly taken wings. And then now the next challenge is the international real estate. So things are progressing nicely.
When people talk about international real estate, what I find is that there are so many challenges. And I mean, we'll love that you use that term, like challenge, because when dealing with in a foreign country, there are always going to be, local customs, first of all, that, a foreigner is just not familiar with. So you really have to, in order to be successful in any foreign international, you really have to be a local. I mean, to be honest, or to be really, really, really well connected with locals. Unfortunately, a lot of countries out there, the systems in terms of municipalities and things like that to get permits and get things are not as straightforward as they are in the United States.
For sure.
So how are you finding yourself in this new challenge?
It goes back to my desire back to between age 15 and 21. Literally, I'm bringing it that far back. I traveled as an inner city kid from Boston when I was 15 to Paris to visit with the family of my buddy who stayed with me at my house the previous summer. His dad miraculously drove my closed-minded self around France for 30 days in an old Range Rover. Changed my world, Yona. Totally changed it. In that, I now got the understanding that the world was a lot bigger than where I lived in Boston. French castles, French funerals, wine, food, girls, sports, culture. I felt it. So what has transpired since is I have found ways to immerse myself in different cultures around the world, up to 100 countries at this point. But that is the way that I find the beginner's mindset. That's the way that I go back to being the curious first grader who has to learn stuff. So when you say, hey, you're doing international real estate, there's lots to learn. That's the point, that there's lots to learn. Yeah. I don't want to be as amazing as we're doing with Quattro right now. I'm still learning. As good as I did on my run in single family, I'm still learning. I want to learn. I'm seeking out knowledge. So the way that I jumped into the international stuff was because I sought out a partner. I sought out somebody who had already done it, who already does it. In this case, he grew up in Turkish Cyprus. He's the husband of someone I graduated from college with. We all have fear about doing things, but fear to me is just a knowledge gap. And the way you can bridge that knowledge gap is either educating yourself formally or informally, Google, YouTube, Facebook, whatever you want to do, or you can do it formally with a formal mentor, or you can find a partner. So my partner is my gap bridger, helping me understand all aspects of the local government. But I hired my own attorney to cover my own interests, so she's bridging gap for me. And dude, I'm learning. I'm like a kid in a candy store back at the beginning who's trying to figure stuff out. So that's why it's so intriguing to me. Yeah, I'll make some money along the way, but it's because I want to do a lot of unique things before I kind of punch off of this planet.
That's awesome. What are some of the things that are driving you? I mean, you're talking about what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And the freedom that gives you to do. How does that freedom translate? Like, what does that mean to you? Like, how do you actually practically use that freedom?
It is the outcome of what I think the outcome of what I believe I was thinking about when I was 21 was to be able to do what I want, when I want, how I want. but with the caveat of being able to give back to community in some sense or fashion. I want to be careful to forecast my views on other people, but I think especially me, I was not put on this earth to just exist. I wasn't. I was put on this earth to thrive and to do amazing things. I need certain freedoms to do that. The way I articulate it now is with the phrase freedom principles. So financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom to get around the world the way that I talked with you about. And there's some little nuances there that I'd love to tell you about. And then the last two are freedom of purpose. I didn't become a police officer for the money. That had nothing to do with it, right? Like nobody gets in a patrol car at 8:30 at night to 6:30 in the morning because they want to make an extra dollar. I wanted to get back to my community. So that was my purpose, be it that or giving back in this region or being in the military. And then freedom of relationships, Yona. This type of stuff that you do enables people to connect. But if there are things that stop us from connecting, toxic relationships, a job that keeps us in the office 18 hours a day such that we're so tired that we have no ability to go out and meaningfully connect with other people because that's truly how we grow, that's a problem. So I push against anything that does that. So that's how it manifests itself for me. Those kind of freedom principles, although I started articulating it the way that I articulate it now to you just now, I had some semblance of that when I was doing the real estate. That's why I never quit. That's why I gave up my 20s and 30s, early 30s. When all the fellas was going out, I was doing the 300-mile drive from my two furthest. I owned 35 single families back in the day, but it was 300 miles between the furthest two. And every weekend I was doing something for a decade and a half. Wow. It was worth it, but that's how it all manifests itself. And that's where the drive came from was like, I just wanted my freedom and I'm in total control of it now. And I know that.
Well, I mean, there's so much to unpack from that. I wish we had hours to kind of dig into each one of those freedom principles because each one, we could do a dedicated episode to each one of those. Really. We should, but let's talk about the freedom of purpose, right? The freedom of giving back, because that's something that resonates a lot with me as well. And you talk about getting in a patrol car. I mean, first of all, I commend you tremendously for that, especially nowadays that unfortunately law enforcement people have been given a really bad rap. I'm sure I'm sure you can relate to that much more than I can, but I mean, how do you deal with that? Let's talk about that. Like, how do you, on a micro level, like yourself personally, not with the world, obviously you can't change the views of the world.
I don't care about the view. I mean, I care about people's views, but that's not going to stop me from doing what I was put on the world in this earth to do. I didn't mean it in a negative way. I guess what I'm suggesting is like, I don't really, if you've had the kind of career that I've had, right? Like, going into the military at 21, becoming a police officer at 33. And I've always had these parallel careers. My whole career has been running into danger one way or the other. So when you ask me like, dude, how are you doing all this stuff? Like really, I don't like talking to a banker about a $10 million loan. That's so minor compared to the time that I spent in the Mideast or Eastern Africa dealing with Somali pirates or Turkey doing diplomatic work with our partners, or like that's the real world stuff to me. And I'm honored to have been a part of it and to still be a part of it in my own way. Everything that I'm doing now, even from a Quattro Capital perspective, real estate perspective, it has a purpose to it. Mm-hmm. If I won my financial freedom in 2014 by doing all that work that I told you about on the single family racket, I've already met my basic needs in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like my basic living issues are done. What I'm doing now, anything that I'm accomplishing is either a legacy for my family or it belongs to the community. It's one or the other. One of the complexes that we did for Quattro post-COVID, it like literally we closed on it, Yona, 2 weeks before we knew what COVID was. Like it was just the worst. Right. A lot of bad things happened, but what the good that came out of it was a lot of the building vacated because people just stopped paying for a variety of reasons that was their fault and some folks were taking advantage. But we partnered with a nonprofit. That nonprofit dealt with people who are homeless, families who are homeless or affected by homelessness, who are on an upward trajectory because they have certain levels of support. And we work with them to fill 1/3 of the complex with people from that community. Now, we could have just gone to open market and made more money. Could have. We can do a lot of things in a lot of cases to make more money. But you start to figure out that people like you and I and your listeners, like even with real estate, my man, we are in a position to help people like nobody's business. So purpose drives everything for me. Real estate is a tool that I can help a lot of people, even the people that I coach who have never bought a piece of real estate ever before in their life. I get them to the point where they buy one piece of real estate and they feel so empowered for their life. So freedom of purpose is a big, big, big deal for me.
Wow. I mean, and doing this, I mean, you talk about community. There's so much about community that is giving back. And when you're expanding and acquiring communities, you're just expanding your community because you're expanding the influence that you have and how you can change the world. Literally changing one person's life is changing their world. And I think, there's an old ancient saying from the Bible or from the Torah that we say that changing, saving one person or changing one person's life is really changing the world. And so you are, doing an incredible thing when you can change the trajectory of one person's life. And I think the way that you said it from, in your youth, like traveling and having your mind opened to what was there. A lot of people aren't given that opportunity, or maybe don't take that opportunity, or maybe, we have the opportunities come to us and we don't see them as opportunities, for whatever reason. A lot of times our worldview is blocked by our experiences or our upbringing or who knows what.
Yeah. That's why I love it so much, because your worldview, where you're from, where I'm from, the States, Haiti, Israel, Turkey, the Caribbean, you spend time with people of different cultures, you develop a certain level of empathy. And for me, being all around the world, but also being corporate, being a police officer, being military, being from the hood back in the day, I can talk at the same level as white collar, blue collar, no collar, whether it's a CEO, a general, or a homeless person having a mental health crisis. I'll sit down with that brother right on the street and have a good conversation with them. I really believe that's what, traveling around and meeting different people does to you. It just builds up a certain level of empathy and you just operate better as a human.
Is there anything that you did when you travel? You said you were in 100 countries, but was a lot of that done as travel, leisure, or was it done more as part of your, I know a lot of it was done as part of your military,
A majority of it was done by me solo, but I did something smart. So I work for a global consulting firm. I'm there 24 years, but I think my career is starting to wind down now. I could have taken the path to partner. It was not of interest to me. What was of interest was experiences through the firm. What wasn't of interest to me within my military career was being overseas. So I specifically chose career paths and opportunities that touch the international market. So to my detriment at my detriment. Now, for my life, it's awesome. But maybe to my upward mobility, I took a role that was virtual, but I was popping around multiple countries all over the world, like Denmark, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Nigeria, doing stuff for local governments and all that type of stuff. In the military, I purposely asked for a region within OSI. OSI is like the equivalent of that TV show NCIS, but within the Air Force. I asked for Region 5. Region 5 is Europe and Africa, and I got it. So I was always doing something between Europe and Africa somewhere. So a lot of my travels was from that. And you want that context. You don't always want to be the visitor. You want to be the diplomatic person or dealing with officials or meeting people on the street or the embassy. But in everything that I've ever done, whether it was going on my own, like 5 times to Finland in 2019, just to immerse myself, it's always been with the, let's say, key performance indicator or success factor of like, if I go back there, is somebody going to pick me up at the airport, right? Or do I know the first and last name of the guy who owns a local restaurant? And every time he sees me, is he like, "What's up, Mo?" Like that was what I was trying to accomplish, like truly getting to know people and not being there as a visitor. And that's what has kind of landed me into now this mixed path of like business and doing the same thing in Cyprus. And I'm sure that'll expand to other places as well.
That's so true. There is a huge difference. I mean, a huge difference between being a tourist and immersing yourself, which for all intents and purposes can be in any role. I mean, whether it's in a business setting or a diplomatic, role, military. Obviously, there's if you chose a career that allows you to do that, but even if you are a visitor, there are different ways to go about doing it. To be a tourist, which means looking and for any American anywhere, right, or anyone that speaks English, please, or actually trying to to pick up on the language, to try to find out what do the locals do. Like, don't stay in the touristy section, like maybe stay in the local section, right?
Absolutely. And ask questions. People want to talk about where they're from and what they've experienced and all that. And you just got to be open to it, man. And I have developed kind of a very open personality over the years. I think that has had something to do with some level of success on the business side. Because even though I have very much an A personality where I'm a bit of a hard charger, I know when to sit back and to listen and to be a good follower and to learn and shut your mouth because people are talking who've done stuff bigger and broader or different than you. And then there's time for us to, and then it's time for us to have our expertise. Like, I listen to you for what you do and help us operators do well for our investors and stuff like that. So, yeah, man, it's just been like this amazing path, and it's starting to culminate, Yona, to living the life of my dreams. I'm very, very happy that I didn't go the typical societal, compete with everybody. And I just ran my own race, and this is where I've landed, where I get to meet people like you and be in places like this. And yeah, sometimes I'm kind of in this. I'm very expectant now of good things, but every once in a while I do look back and remember when I was 21, like, man, I'm glad you made the choices that you made. So I don't know where that came from, but like a moment of gratitude came over me for a second there.
No, it's so true. A very wise person told me when I was young that the choices that you make dictate the life that you lead, right? And those words like resonated with me. And I didn't really get it all the time, but I definitely, looking back, when you see what choices you make, you see very clearly, where you're going, who you're surrounding yourself with,
right.
What job you choose to take, where you choose to live, etc. That's definitely, dictating that. So sure. It's really breaking out of that comfort zone in a lot of ways, and allowing yourself to do something that you never thought you could do in order to, just experience something new and different.
Absolutely.
Are there any places, this is kind of a random question maybe, any places that you've been that you would like never want to go back to?
Every place that I've been to has provided value. I'll tell you that. But I lived in Djibouti, Africa for a year. I was stationed there, but by the nature of what I do, what I was doing in the military, I was never in uniform. So I was always just a plainclothes guy, and I'm a French speaker, and I was getting around. Man, Djibouti, Africa is rough, but I can take any culture and dead animals burning on the side of the highway and trash everywhere and stuff. I still see the beauty in it. I don't know, like, I can go back to any particular place. But the one reason I would not go back to Djibouti, it was so hot, brother. When the first day I got there, I landed and I went right to my room. And then we slept in trailers in the desert and stuff. And I woke up at 4:30 in the morning the next day. So that's pretty good to get to the gym by 5. And it was 98 degrees at 5 in the morning. And I was like, this is not going to be good at all. And the high of the day was like 121. Yeah, I'm not going back. I'm good. It's a rough place, but man, that's the point, right? There's beautiful people everywhere in the world. So there's no place I would never go back to.
That's awesome. Love that.
Yeah.
So I'd love to transition now to what we call the final 4. These are 4 questions that I ask all my guests. And first question for you, Mo, what is the worst job that you ever had?
Yeah, the worst job. It's not so much the worst job as it was the first job that really caused me consternation. I was a shoe salesman at age 15 or 16, working at the mall in Braintree, Massachusetts. It was called Fava Shoe Store. I'll never forget it. I sold in a 1-month period $3,000 worth of shoes. And the manager was like, you have a career in this. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't. I'm out, dude. I gotta get out of here. But it certainly taught me hard work. But being a shoe salesman, actually what that guy said pushed me. Like, no, I don't know. My life is not going to be at the Braintree Mall for my whole life. I got to get out of here. So it was being a shoe salesman.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, that's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah, it was good.
So I want to ask you now for a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift.
Two. I have to say the two. I'll be quick about it. The first one is the 4-Hour Work Week. It changed my life. I got it in 2010. The reason why it changed my life, Yona, especially with the geographic freedom that we talked about, I automate my life. I outsource everything that's not pertinent. I use my time very wisely. I know that if the average lifespan is 79 years old, I have 28,000 days to live. I have 14,200 and change left. So I want to use it very wisely. 4-Hour Work Week taught me how to automate things, virtualize things. I don't receive mail anywhere. It all comes through an interface, Earth Class Mail. So I can pick up and come to this region and stay here for 3 months, 4 months, and I'm fine. The other one was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which maybe you know about. It floored me because I was involved in so many different things from a military, corporate, personal perspective. I was truly looking for what my purpose is and was. That book helped me figure it out. I know what my 3 purposes are. And ever since I read that book, I have significant clarity on who I am, how I operate, and why I'm so unapologetic about how I live. So it's those 2 books.
Amazing. Yeah, both extremely influential on me as well.
Yeah.
Definitely relate to that. So we'll put those in the show notes if anyone wants to check those out, those 2 books there. Third question we're going to go with is, what is a skill or talent that you'd like to learn?
Boxing. You know what it is, man? So I tried out for the NFL when I was 23, 24. I had a tryout. I didn't make it. I'm glad I didn't make it because my path is my path. So whatever it is, I'm happy for it.
Yeah.
I love being physically active, and I have been grinding for so long. I'm still that guy who gets up at 4 a.m. and I'm at the gym by 5 and I'm working out and all that type of stuff. But I would like to do something different. So in honor of Tim Ferriss, if you know the 4-Hour Work Week, he talks about immersive experiences. I would like to learn how to box, but I don't mean like go to class 1 hour a day type of stuff. I mean, like, take 6 months off from everything and totally immerse myself in boxing. Because I know I still have it. I still have fire in the belly to do that type of stuff. I like challenges, right? So I'm looking for the next challenge. That might be it. But I don't see myself getting in a ring all the time, but I want to learn the fundamental skills of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just a weird one. It sticks with me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's so many different things you could do, but boxing, even within physical, exercise or different types of
absolutely,
athletics.
brother. Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, why not? There you go. Okay, so fourth and final question is going to be, what does success mean to you? And I think we talked about this already a lot, but sum it up.
I'm happy, bro. It truly is doing what I want, when I want, how I want. I really worked hard, and on my own for those 14 years. Of course, you have support partners, lawyers, people who cheer you on, parents, all that type of stuff. But I made a post or 2 on Instagram and LinkedIn about entrepreneurial depression. I had it for like a decade. I just didn't know where it was going to take me, and it took me to a good place. Even now with Quattro Capital, like I'm doing all that work, but I'm doing it because I want to. I'm doing it because I know it's going to help investor partners reach their own particular goals, which that's where I spend my time, right? Is client relations. And dude, how are we going to get you out of the W-2? Like, I'm still in the W-2 because I want to be, not because I have to be. So I know how to help people get out of it.
Right.
So that's it. It's the freedom. It's what I want, when I want, how I want, and I'm living it. And I couldn't be happier for how it's all turned out.
I love that because, we hear that almost every time. Like, a lot of people talk about their success and talk about how they're living it. And that's truly what I love. And that's why I kind of introduced this podcast as I like to speak with, the most successful people that I know, because people that have those principles and are not just having those principles, but are living it and are living up to what they, really dreamed of, or, saw those goals and are just taking life by the reins and not letting life happen to you, but kind of, painting your own picture.
And I want to say one more thing for your listeners about that success thing, which is, I never said anything about money ever. I understand we need a certain level of money to get there, but there are people who generated 4,000 passive. They have 2,000 passive in bills and they're done. You do not need $30 million sitting in a bank to have financial freedom or freedom of time. What you need is passive income or some other income source that is above and beyond your expenses, and a conscious choice to choose a lifestyle by which you can maintain it. That's it. The problem is we live in a culture where everything is materialistic and you're trying to keep up. So we have payments and bills and more and more and more and buying and going to Walmart, Home Depot and Lowe's, and it is ridiculous. So it is not millions of dollars. It is making some conscious decisions, and you can get there. And if anyone wants to talk to me about that stuff, I will talk about it all day, because people deserve to live their life to the fullest and not just exist. And that is a way you can do it.
Well said. I couldn't have said it better.
No, man.
I mean, I think you said it very well, and it's right. I mean, people just, I don't know, the culture, and I don't relate to it, which is part of the reason why I left. I don't relate to it. Buying stuff and just needing to keep up and, all that stuff. I don't. So for me, it's really easy to just live that lifestyle and do stuff like that. So our last question for you, Mo, is where can people find you? I mean, you mentioned people reach out to you. What's the best way people to reach out to you?
Life is the most important thing. I talk life stuff and show life stuff on Instagram. By far, I like talking to people on Instagram because that's truly who I am. I get that I'm in the business world too. I got that, but that's not who I am. Business powers life. So Instagram is life. That's just Maurice Philogene. I'm on LinkedIn at Maurice Philogene as well. I try to articulate how we can use business to do things in a different way. Facebook, Maurice Philogene as well, although I'm not as active. Quattro Capital, I'd be honored if people stop by there. It's The Quattro Way, W-A-Y, thequattroway.com. We are add value investors, B&C properties, B&C areas, typically in the southeast of the country, extremely active. I have the best partners and we're doing things the right way. So that's where folks can catch me. Last one, MauricePhilogene.com, where I am doing some coaching for a very small amount of people. But with all this experience and perspective, I know I can give back. That's my additional way of doing it with MauricePhilogene.com.
Awesome. Okay. We will make sure to put all that in the show notes. We, meaning my editors.
Outsourcing.
You guys are awesome. Shout out to Streamline Podcast. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much.
Right,
and thanks so much for taking the time to us, Maurice, and spending the time sharing some of your life with us today.
Yeah, man. Anything I can do for you or your viewership, you let me know. I'm here.
Amazing. And to our listeners, you guys are awesome for making it this far. And thanks again for tuning in. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.